Hello, Eternal Life fans. We are on the next episode of Transcending Gods, a talk show I started where we explore all kinds of different topics from atheism to transhumanism and everything in between. I am so honored and I feel so privileged to be interviewing Atheism-is-Unstoppable. You may have seen him on YouTube already. If you're in the atheist community, I'm sure you have. He has gained a cult following. He is the kangaroo, the beloved kangaroo.
Man, that's a great intro, man. But I've only got a few subscribers. But yeah, it feels good to be known by some people, including yourself.
Well, you are like honestly feel like I am like how someone would have felt probably if they were interviewing like Christopher Hitchens before they got famous. Like I honestly feel like you're on that level. I'm not
Well,
kidding.
well, you paid $5,000 for the privilege, and I thought it was the least I could do was to give you a little time.
All right.
I actually saw your interview with the young ones, the all-knowing atheists, and I thought that was adorable and awesome, and I just enjoyed that back and forth. So that's how I came to know you.
Thank you. I wouldn't have been able to interview them if it wasn't for you.
Ah,
You introduced me to them, so I have to
ah,
thank you for that.
wow, it is a small world. It's all interconnected. Can I ask you where you're broadcasting from, or what state, or what?
Yes, Sacramento, California, Sacramento area.
Uh-huh. Interesting. Wow.
Where are you right now?
I'm in London, England. Um, some girl online tried to release my address. She like did some research on me, and she's like, "Just so you know, he lives in Los Angeles." It was the saddest thing ever. She was trying to like, I don't know, out me for like, it was strange. But no, I live in Germany right now, but I'm in London visiting family.
Awesome. Do you like it there?
Yeah, it's great. Wimbledon is happening right now, so the family's all watching Wimbledon. I'm going to be looking for them on TV today. But yeah, it's a beautiful place. Have you been out here?
Never.
Oh man, it's an old city. It's crowded. It's hectic, but it has a charm to it that's unique. And it's basically the Harry Potter world. It's just there's a lot of scum. There's a lot of low class sort of element. And I will say that the English women and men are not the most attractive bloodlines in the world. And I say that coming from them. I am an Englishman, but I mean Jesus.
Yeah, there's a stereotype with the teeth, right, of
Yeah,
English
well,
people.
the teeth is only the beginning. It only gets worse from there. Um, yeah, it's sad. Like fitness is not really a thing here. Um, it's only in small pockets that you could find that. But I like it here. I didn't like the flight over. I hate flying. That's a scary prospect, especially considering I took German Wings, the same airline that just had a suicide. We were just talking about suicide. So that was a bit freaky, but I figure that might be the safest airline to take now.
So I have a total fear of flying. I literally would not even fly
Really?
at
Yeah.
all.
Well, that would tie into your desire to live forever.
Yes. Yeah, I've like vowed never to fly a plane until the technology is like vastly improved.
Really?
Yeah.
You're gonna hold out and wait. Still,
Yeah.
the jury's still out on plane travel.
Yeah,
Well,
and there's all kinds of things like that I'm like waiting. I'm like patience,
uh,
patience and do things when it's less risky.
well, you're still within range of some cool places. San Francisco being one of them. I went to
Yeah,
school
San
up there.
Francisco.
Yeah, that's a good region, North California. It's totally different from Southern California. I don't think people outside of California really know how different the North versus South dichotomy is. But yeah, I've been there one time, I think.
Sacramento, I mean, sorry, San Francisco is actually like a very hot spot for transhumanism.
Really?
Yeah.
I would imagine it's a hotspot for trans, a lot of other stuff.
Hmm.
Transgender, trans. I've lost track of all the verbs and nouns and things that people can be and do. But
Yeah.
I'm sure they're all in San Francisco.
So Most of your audience knows the whole thing, the story about the kangaroo, but for my audience, give a little brief explanation of how you came with the kangaroo logo that's become so beloved. We've really fallen in love with the kangaroo.
Yeah, I think it's stuck a little bit. The reason was basically I started the YouTube channel. I actually didn't start a YouTube channel. I started just posting one video of Kirk Cameron. So it was just my response to Kirk Cameron. That was the beginning, middle, and end of my whole YouTube plan. And it was a reaction to his movie trailer called Unstoppable. And so instead, I'm not going to, so I now have to name the video. And what am I going to name it? Unstoppable, my reaction? No, I just said Atheism-is-Unstoppable. Just because I was trying to piss on this guy. And I spent 2 seconds thinking about it, and I wrote it down. And then it asks you, it says, well, now I'm creating a channel. So then it says, okay, upload a picture. So then I was like, well, am I going to upload my face like I'm some, I don't know. That just was never going to be an option. Just because, yeah, here's me, everybody, love me. No, this is not happening. So then I posted a picture of Christopher Hitchens. I thought, that's legit. I love Hitchens. I watch all of his videos online. And so I posted that. And then I had that up for a while until my channel got some popularity. So when I did this Sam Harris video, and now I got an influx of people, and now I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I'm giving my commentary and my thoughts. Why am I putting a picture of Hitchens up? Like trying to use his image and his reputation as a crutch for me. So that made no sense. So I thought, I got to pick something else. And when I was thinking about this, I was doing a video about the creation debate. And Bill Nye had talked about kangaroos and the fact that, you know, Noah's Ark has to be false because there are no kangaroos. There's no skeletons of kangaroos. You know, they're not mentioned in the Bible. All these things. And so I did a Google search for kangaroos, found this image. It was taken by a Christian lady on her way to church, which I find to be awesome. And yeah, I just used it, and then it was just a matter of apathy, and now I'm committed. I can't change it. I can't change the name of the channel. I can't change the icon.
Well, it's awesome, and it's working. Okay, let's. I want to know. We're going to get into atheism a little bit, and a lot, but I want to know right off the bat.
Hit me.
Do you want to live forever if it was an option for you in the future? If we were to cure aging, if scientists were to cure aging, and you could literally live forever as long as you didn't die from an accident or something like that, but you wouldn't die from aging, would you choose that option for yourself?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would even take it further. I would say, do you want to never sleep? I would say yes to that. Like, I would.
I've thought about that a lot. I would totally turn off sleeping if that was an option.
Yeah, I mean, we waste a third of our lives. It's doing nothing. I would get rid of going to the bathroom. That's a time killer. I mean, these are things I think that would enhance our lives. I mean, maybe we could have rest. Let's keep the siesta, but let's get rid of sleeping. And I think everybody, this is a default thing. This is our survival instinct, is that, yeah, of course we want to live forever. The question is, what do you do at the time? And I immediately jump to the Interview with a Vampire scenario, where you have Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, who stay young and good looking, and they're basically, well, see, they have that thing where they got to drink people's blood, which is kind of a buzzkill. But if you don't have that, then what are you going to do? I'm sure you could fill your time. I mean, we have to fill our times right now. I mean, I think it would be maybe preferable if we weren't a slave to the economy and the constant need to, you know, make money. I mean, if we could sort of balance it out a little bit more, where, you know, you put in 4 hours a day for your rent and for money acquisition, and then the rest is to fulfill your life, to hang out with friends and family, and to, I don't know, create art or something. But yeah, let's do it. I'm all in favor. I want to see a news headline that says, "Long-haired man in Sacramento figures cure for aging." You know, that would be awesome.
Well, it wouldn't be me. It'd be more like a long bearded guy figures out the cure for aging.
Daniel Dennett.
Aubrey de Grey.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
he's working on it.
Yeah, he's the main. If you follow Eternal Life Fan Club, I promote Aubrey de Grey, the work of Aubrey de Grey. He's the main guy promoting radical therapies for life extension. And he has all kinds of TED Talks. He's gaining a lot of popularity, and with his SENS Foundation, it's a very detailed plan to solve all the problems of aging.
The only issue with that is the political and social, you know, backlash that this would engender. I mean, can you imagine? The only reason that we haven't just all killed each other is because of death. It's because, just it sounds like a weird thing to say, but imagine if we had to still deal with all of those fucks from 100 years ago. Oh, imagine if the Muslims from the 7th century were still here today. Holy shit. Thank God they're dead. I mean, for example, my girlfriend, she's German, right? Her grandfather is a Nazi, okay? The guy lives up like in Hamburg, and he's still alive, and he's still as Nazi-rific as ever, and he's a total asshole. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, they're all waiting for the guy to die. I mean, it's like there are certain people that you have to wait to die, like Glenn Beck. Nobody's changing Glenn Beck. He must die. Death can be our friend.
Yeah, death, it does kind of wash the slate clean, right?
Hmm.
Unfortunately, it kills a lot of people, that are good. It
I know.
sucks.
The problem is we need to have somebody determine who's good and bad, and I nominate myself. I got a list I've already created. I'm like Arya Stark over here, listing off the people that need to die.
Um, let's talk about the death penalty.
Hmm.
Okay, this is an issue I've actually changed on, and I totally understand people who are pro death penalty, because I used to be pro death penalty, but then I started to realize that I don't want to live in a world where I could be legally killed by the government, because what if somebody framed me,
Hmm.
right? Like, even just that small chance that I could like be framed for a crime and then be legally executed, it changed my mind, changed my whole perspective, especially when you start to think about the possibility of living forever. How horrible it'd be to miss out on that.
But by that same logic, shouldn't we get rid of just prison in general? Because putting somebody in prison for life is a pretty terrible thing too, and we put people in prison for life for bad reasons, for false reasons. So human error, I think, is always going to come into play, and you're basically making a distinction, saying that a death penalty is, you know, much more severe than life in prison. But there are many that would argue that it's actually more of a punishment to not kill the person, make them suffer in a box and live in a cage. I mean, it's
Yeah, I guess prisons should be more like like luxury resorts, because
well,
because you know
with
we
man
can
rape.
we can never know for sure that
Hmm.
someone is actually guilty, right? So I think we should almost get rid of the idea of guilty and just like make it so that everyone's just a suspect, because we never know for 100% sure. I know it can look like there's no doubt like that this person's guilty, but when
Well,
you
it's
really think
interesting.
about it, someone
Hmm.
could have been so someone could have been under threat. Like, even if they're admitting that they're guilty, maybe
Hmm.
there's someone threatening to kill their family if they don't say they're guilty.
I think we can improve upon things, and we have to recognize that mistakes are made. But the things that are helping us correct that now is like the DNA evidence, and there are new methods we can use, which this was way worse in the past. So if you killed some guy in 1970, you're basically shit out of luck you know if the court case didn't go your way. Um, but today, yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting issue, and I heard people talk about this whole thing of they're not in favor of an eye for an eye. They think that'll leave everybody blind, is something like the saying, which to me is a ridiculous statement. I mean, it doesn't do that. An eye for an eye is a great policy. It's first of all, it's not the person that just got poked in the eye that's poking the other person back. It's everybody else. It's the society saying, "We saw you just poke this dude in the eye and blind him. Now we're blinding you." It's not everybody's blind. It's two guys are blind, and we're stopping from everybody else from getting blind. Um,
Yeah, you're right. I if it was like the olden days where it's like a lynch mob and stuff,
mhm.
and the whole society is getting in on it, that's actually almost better than the way it is now, where everything is held in it could be a small group of people. Just a jury gets to decide, right? And what if
Yeah.
they're wrong? What if they're what if they're racist, or what if they have all kinds of biases and weird agendas, or what if there's like even a conspiracy to frame someone? That's what's scary about it. It's like a small group of people could decide this person's fate.
Yeah, and having been to the OJ trial physically and in person, I can tell you that this happens. There's abortions of justice all the time, and that is a terrible thing. It's interesting. I don't know how many states have the death penalty, or country by country, but like you hear about Anders Breivik. You know, the guy killed like 80 something people in Norway, or was it Finland? It's
Oh yeah,
Norway.
yeah, yeah. That guy. I know that guy.
Right. So up there, they're so lenient. He's getting like 22 years in prison for killing 80 people. Like they don't have the death penalty. They don't have life in prison apparently, which to me seems completely out of sync with what it should be. And that's just, I'm sure they'll figure out a way to keep him in jail forever, but I don't know. I do think that there are, like, for example, Dylan Roof. I mean, what are we supposed to do with that guy? Rehabilitate him? I mean, put him back, give him freedom? If you kill 9 people, it's over. You're done. You get ejected.
Yeah. I guess I have kind of a conspiratorial mind sometimes. Like I totally, obviously, I think Dylan Roof is guilty and stuff. But like in a hypothetical universe,
Mm-hmm.
there could be some elaborate conspiracy that to make someone look guilty,
Yeah.
even when they're not, and everyone else think, oh well, this person's obviously guilty. Let's just kill him. But that wasn't actually the case, you know.
But because of that possibility, are we supposed to throw out the entire legal system? Like, I mean, we're trying our best to ascertain the truth. And that's what's funny about a court system. There's a lot of analogies from what a judge and a jury have to go through with what atheists have to go through. Because this idea of how can you know for sure? How can you know for 100%? For example, how can we know 100% that OJ killed these people? We can't. We can know 99.9%. And that's good enough to fry the guy. I mean, so this idea that we don't have absolute certainty, it doesn't play in a court. The judge doesn't care, the jury doesn't care. It's all about reasonable doubt and just evidence. The whole thing is about evidence. And what's beautiful, actually, I should do a video on this, I was going to, this whole idea of hearsay. So in a courtroom, they do not take hearsay. Like, they will object to it and be like, if this is not your firsthand testimony, if you're giving us some secondhand account, it's not even admissible in court. It's not even worth our time to hear your bullshit story about what you heard somebody say. Which, imagine what the Bible is. The Bible is like hearsay to the millionth power. It's like, I heard a guy, no, I don't even know the guy I heard this from. Like, I don't even know. Somebody wrote something once, thousands of years ago. That's my evidence. If you brought that to a judge, he would hold you in contempt of court and like throw you in prison and be like, how dare you waste the court's time with that shit. So I don't know. I think it is tragic, and I think we should try to minimize any sort of mistaken guilty verdict. And I think we should, the standards for it should be more when it comes to a death penalty case. But you know, we have a weird process, man, with the appeals and we don't kill people. The Nazis killed people. The Nazis, if they found you guilty, right or wrong, they killed you that day. I mean, we have a process where it just goes on and on. I mean, Scott Peterson, the guy who killed his wife up in your area, Northern California, Lacey Peterson, remember that whole thing?
Yep, I remember that.
Right, so Christmas Eve, he kills his wife and his unborn baby. He's still alive. He got remarried. I mean, he might be getting conjugal visits right now. The guy's like, you know, returning fan mail. And what is that? Kill this guy. So, I don't know. I'm a bit more harsh than you, perhaps.
Yeah, I am sympathetic to that. I'm a person that wants justice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if I could actually know for sure that someone was a murderer, you know, or raped a little kid or something, or, you know, was a pedophile, I mean, not, you know, was a child molester, I would want that person killed. You know, I guess it's just that shadow of a doubt. Like, like, what if they actually are innocent?
Right. And I'm okay with that. I think this really does tie into religion. Like so many other things, it's just like a toilet bowl and just flushes down to the topic of religion. Because whether or not you think killing somebody is a legitimate punishment depends on what you think happens in the afterlife. If you think the guy gets killed and then faces God's wrath the next moment, that's a different scenario than just his lights go out and he cannot feel or suffer or, you know, actually feel punishment for what he did. So if you're an atheist, if you're an atheist, I think it might make more sense to keep the guy alive. Make this guy suffer out the next 50, 60 years. Grind it out, and that's worse.
That's a really good point. And, you know, there's been some talk about create in the future when virtual reality is a real possibility and it's very realistic and stuff. A lot of people have been talking about creating virtual prisons, like virtual hells. You can make it.
I
You can
feel like
make a hell for people.
I feel like I'm in virtual hell when I'm on Twitter half the time. I think it's already been made. It's called Twitter. But like, imagine this. Here's an example. Like your dog. Your dog is sick. He's suffering. He's in pain. What do? You put him down. That's helping your dog. That's what a loving master or owner of a dog does for their beloved friend. They say, "Let me end the suffering. Let me make you feel nothing." If you hated your dog, you would like try to keep him alive and suffering on and on and on. So I think death is too good for some of these people.
That is a very interesting perspective.
Mm.
Often, I mean, I've kind of a different perspective because I feel like suffering is like worse than death. I've often thought that I would actually prefer hell if it existed, depending on how bad it is, right? I can only tolerate so much suffering, but I'd try to tolerate a heck of a lot of suffering before, choosing death as a way to, put the suffering out and the misery.
Well, you are anti-death, but ironically, what's your stance on abortion? Are you a pro-lifer?
No.
So the guy who is all in favor of eternal life is not pro-life.
Yeah, because they're just, I mean, it's a little baby fetus, and it's not as important as the rights of, the mother.
Yeah, I'm pro-choice, and especially when that choice is abortion.
Yes, definitely, because giving birth to a child could actually be dangerous. It could kill the mother.
Yeah, I'm in favor of requiring people to be at least 25 years old before they have children. If the people that control rent-a-car companies can make a law that you have to be 25 years old to rent a car, if they have the common sense to see why that's a good idea, I think being a parent, of course you could never enforce this because there's so many animals out there just on the animal cycle of life, and they're like, I'm fucking bored, let me have a kid. Have you ever seen 16 and Pregnant?
I've heard about it.
Mm.
I don't think I've seen it, no.
Okay. MTV. Nobody watches TV anymore, of course.
I think I might have seen like an episode of Beavis and Butthead where they were watching 16 and Pregnant or something. I don't know.
That's where I get my news too, Beavis and Butthead. I love
Yeah.
Mike Judge is a genius.
I saw your Boy Scouts video.
Oh, yeah.
Be prepared. That's the Boy Scouts motto.
Oh, yeah. I'm an Eagle Scout. Never forget that, people.
Be prepared is actually one of my mottos. Like that's like one of the things I live by, like trying to be prepared for anything. Because like when you're trying to live forever, any accident could kill you.
That sounds like you're a gun owner.
No, I'm actually agree with you about the no gun policy. I don't think
that makes two of us.
Yeah.
It's 2 versus 350 million now.
Yeah, I think guns are too dangerous for people, normal citizens to have access to.
I know, it's amazing it has to be said out loud. Oh my God. And I guarantee you, like, people just get their panties in a bunch. And it's like, for me, it's like me saying, I'm against citizens having nuclear weapons. I'm against citizens owning bazookas. That's as obvious of a statement as I'm against citizens owning guns. Why would they have the right to own guns? This is, man.
I know. It shouldn't be a right. It's a privilege, and everyone shouldn't have that privilege.
Yeah, it should be heavily restricted or if not completely banned, and just like the good countries do. But I don't want to get sidetracked on guns too much. But I will say that I was just recently watching Wyatt Earp, the Western, and back in the Wild West. So think of the barbaric times of the Wild West. Everybody getting shot up and killed, totally violent. When you entered the town of like Tombstone, they said, hand over your guns. You're going to come here, you're going to drink. You don't get guns in the town. It turns out that nowadays, everybody lives in towns. We're not just farmers, we're not just militiamen waiting for the British to come. So everybody has to turn over the guns. We're all trying to coexist in a town. So the same idea of Wyatt Earp saying, hand over your gun, that should be the federal policy. We need Wyatt Earp to be the president of the United States and say, turn over your guns before you go to the brothel and start gambling and start, getting drunk. Anyway.
Totally. Yeah, and that's also I'm wondering what your opinion is on the issue of privacy, because I think just like guns are like this like privilege, it's not like a right that everyone should have a gun. I think it's kind of the same with privacy, because like everyone is so like obsessed with privacy, but when you think about it, privacy can cause a lot of uh, deaths and danger. Like if everyone has privacy, who's going to stop, people from building bombs?
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah,
need to have surveillance, right? We need the government to survey,
yeah.
people.
Well, I got a death threat the other day from some ISIS wannabe kid from Germany, some Muslim, and the German authorities were notified, and I'm sure they're following up on it. And it's not hard from a technical standpoint to track some guy's IP and to sort of figure out everything the guy's about. What is he searching for on Google? In fact, that's one of the things that busted Scott Peterson, was they looked at his Google track record, and like the day or the week before he killed his wife, he was studying the tidal patterns of the marina in Berkeley. And like, so if I dump a body here, where will the body go, sort of thing? Or like, what was that girl, that mother who killed her daughter in Florida? Forget her name. Young mother.
I heard about that story.
Yeah. Anyway, she had researched the same day on Google, how do you asphyxiate somebody? It's like, that's somewhat relevant, and like, you don't get the right to that privacy. But again, there are no checks on this power, and this is what Snowden is all about. And who is in charge of this, and who voted them in? Who's overseeing them? This is an easy way to get out of control with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we've drawn a balance here. I don't think we have a system in place. I think the whole world has been caught off guard by the internet. Nobody was expecting this. The level of domination that the internet has taken over our lives. So like at first, it's like, oh, chat rooms, and this is nice, and pedophiles can talk to young girls. This is cool. But now it's like everywhere and everything. So it's not just a little random side hobby thing. And basically every human being, you could be taken down with your search history. How many people are comfortable showing their search history? I don't know. I don't know one. I don't know one person that would want that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine seeing a list of everything you've searched for on Google from the start of the internet till now? And that's like poetry. That's like performance art. Imagine that. Imagine like, I should do that. I should do like Hitler's search history. It's like a one-act play, and it's just Hitler from the day he got back from World War One. Let's say the internet was there. What would he have searched for?
Mm-hmm.
That would have been awesome.
That would be.
Yeah.
Just imagine a world like when, in the future, I'm always thinking about the future. I'm like a futurist thinking about trying to create a paradise on Earth, like with all this technology and stuff. Like, how can we create a world that is actually like as perfect as possible?
In a world.
And like, have you ever thought about how to like prevent crime, like the best way to do that? Because I've thought about this, and religion is kind of useful, I think, for some people. It prevents some psychopathic minds from actually acting out their evil, because they are actually so afraid of this, man in the sky that's going to punish them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how can we almost like want to use that and like recreate that, like with technology? Like, what if everyone thought that everyone was being surveyed and under surveillance at all times? That would actually prevent crimes, wouldn't it?
Well, it sounds like you're suggesting we create the Truman Show meets Minority Report. So
kinda. It would actually help prevent crimes.
Well, I think it's a lofty ambition there. I mean, we are not that special. We are primates. We are animals rolling around here. So crime is always going to happen. We're always going to have fucked up stuff, conflict, anger, crimes of passion, transgressions against other people. On a spectrum from mild ones to massive ones. We are living in utter chaos. And if you can carve out a bubble that is a safety zone that has less of that chaos, then you've done a good job. And that place is called Australia. That's where you got to go. You got to go to places that have figured this out. Go to Japan. Like, for example, if you don't want to die by a gun, don't live in America. these are the calculated risks you take. If you want to have a safe, relatively harmless existence, don't live in a big city. Go to a medium-sized town. You know, so the more people, the more interpersonal conflicts, the more crime, the more chaos. I don't think we're meant for this. I mean, humans, if you've looked at the scale of population growth, the exponential, bell curve that just skyrocketing,
Mm-hmm.
that's not natural. That's never happened for our species. So we are not supposed to be billions strong, living in groups of millions. Like, we're doing pretty good considering that we are supposed to be traveling in like little family clans and like hunting woolly mammoths and stuff. Well, maybe not woolly mammoths, but like, you know, hunting and gathering. We're
Mm-hmm.
doing, and even then we were killing each other. It's like, so although it is nice and to consider, and I love science fiction, I love the practice of thinking, forward thinking, and thinking what if. You're probably a Star Trek fan.
I'm more a Star Wars fan, but I like Star
Yeah.
Trek.
Well, obviously, everybody should be a Star Wars fan more.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. That is yeah, it's an interesting thing there. Who is more Star Trek than Star Wars? Like, what kind of a guy would say that? I can't understand that to be more Star Trek than Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, really, because Star Trek is also just long and what are they referring to? The old series, which was so dated, or the Next Generation? I mean, it's all convoluted. Star Wars is an epic, 3 movies, bang. That's the world. It's concise. Include the new ones. Be my guest, and hopefully JJ will, bring honor. He will. If Jar Jar Binks makes an appearance, that's kind of ominous because Jar Jar is JJ too. Um, I will lose my shit. I will create a channel just dedicated to Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks needs to be stopped.
Totally. Oh man. Yeah,
I
when I
think.
think of Star Trek, I like think of like Seven of Nine. I like that character and like Data. I like
Mhm.
the robot characters.
Yeah, yeah, those were interesting ones. But it got repetitive, and it just doesn't have the fun. There's no Han Solo in Star Trek.
Yeah,
There's no Boba Fett. Nobody to the equivalent coolness factor of those characters.
absolutely.
No Stormtroopers. Stormtroopers would have made Star Trek so much better.
Yeah, I'm sure you could appreciate it because you do flash animations and stuff and
Mm.
you're into the graphics, right?
Yeah, those I appreciate the Star Wars movies for how well they hold up. I mean, the innovation of special effects those guys did, and you have to appreciate any movie pre year 2000 that tried to do a special effect. They actually did that special effect. Like, it's not a stunt, it's not Photoshop, it's not After Effects, it's not some fancy computer thing. It's guys being, badasses and actually tricking you with their special, wizardry. I'm impressed by that.
Mm-hmm. Um, you know how Christians has a Christian ever come to you and told you like that if it wasn't for God, there's no reason to be moral and I would just do anything I wanted to if there was no God. Has a Christian ever told you that?
Yeah, you hear that in the comment threads, and
It's
yeah.
crazy, right? I want to know, do you think these Christians are actually telling the truth or do you think they're just lying? Like they wouldn't just be like psychopaths, right? If they found out there wasn't a God, right?
I think some of them would be, but I mean, I think in general, yeah, it's just something to say. It's just them blowing off steam and getting something off their chest. I think most of it's sexual repression. I think
Mm-hmm.
most of that, if you actually put some truth serum into them, they're like, I would bang the hot girl I saw walking to work today. That's what I would do if I could do it. If there's a report out that an asteroid is about to hit the Earth in 5 minutes, there's going to be a lot of rapes happening in the world. There's going to be a lot of molestation cases that will never get reported because the asteroid will hit the Earth. But yeah, sexual frustration and repression is the root cause of so much of our problems. Every time there's a shooting spree, that's a sexually frustrated individual. You know, if not for masturbation, imagine a world without masturbation. If we did not have that release valve, and oh my, I mean, it's terrible as is. And these masturbation cannot get enough. They cannot outfap this problem. They are just frustrated losers who could not get women.
I
Uh,
totally agree. Like Elliot Rogers,
oh my God, he's the
perfect
worst.
example.
And that's a Californian. That's a Californian like you and I, who
Hmm.
I went to UCSB for a semester. When I was transferring from Berkeley to UCLA, I did a semester in Santa Barbara, and there are hot girls everywhere there. All the girls in UCSB came from San Diego. So if you're a hot girl in San Diego, what are you going to do? You're not going to go to school at UCSD because that's too close to home. It's incestuous. You know San Diego. You want an adventure and you want a party. So you go to the biggest party school in California, UCSB, and you study sociology or some other like random easy ass topic. Just like Reza Aslan did. He went to UCSB to study sociology with these hot women, of which he got none, guaranteed. But yeah, that kid, that is seriously. And if that guy survived, he killed himself, right? If
Hmm.
he, if he had survived, he needs to be put to death. I mean, that I would pull the trigger. I would send him to Syria, and I would film his beheading. I mean, that guy is a scumbag.
I'm very, uh, I've often thought that if the death penalty was ever made illegal, because it's a
Mhm,
possibility that that might happen in the future,
mhm.
but if it was ever made illegal, I almost think that we should still like, almost like fake death penalties, just so there's still the fear. Like we need everyone to think that the death penalty is still a possibility, or at least do it very rarely, so that it's still a deterrent.
How
Because
about how about just like have the Hunger Games and like once every year we just take the top 50 criminals from each state and have them do battle until there's only one left. And then we
yes,
and then
that
we
would be cool.
reinstate them. I wonder which state's criminal would win. Maybe some like survivalist from Montana or something, or some Texan.
I really like that idea. I think if we should turn
Hmm.
the prison system into, like, there's this awesome movie called Gamer, and it turned the
Hmm.
prison system into like a game. Like in the future, like everyone's that we film the prisoners like fighting, and like
Yeah,
it's broadcasted on TV. It's a great
place bets
movie.
on it. I'd love it, and put like a 7 second delay on it, so like if it gets too gory, the kids can turn away.
Hmm.
And, but they always ask the question: if they filmed executions, would it get ratings? And ISIS has answered that question for us. Yes, it does get ratings. People watch it. Have you watched any of the beheadings or the burnings or the drownings or the rocket
Yes.
launcher?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I watched. I can take a lot of that stuff. I've kind of desensitized myself. I want to know all the information, so I don't censor myself. I'll watch the most grotesque,
Hmm.
horrible things.
Have you seen the movie The Human Centipede?
I've seen a trailer for it. I didn't watch I saw the South Park episode that was mocking it.
So you are tapping into South Park and Beavis and Butthead to peer into the outside world. Yeah,
Yes.
I love those guys too. By the way, I watched the Book of Mormon out here in London. The best musical, easily the best musical around today.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. I want to watch it. It's on my
It,
list.
it is an absolute pleasure. Like those guys deserve never-ending praise for what they did with that musical. It really is. They really are master craftsmen and comedians and writers and musically talented storytellers. I mean, that is a masterpiece, and that is all I'll say. Actually, it's funny. Penn Jillette, he went and saw it, and he loved it more than I did. He spent like half an hour of a video just praising those guys for that, and they deserve it. So yeah, I definitely recommend that.
I'm sure it's good because South Park just makes me laugh, and it's hard to make me laugh.
Hmm.
Um, okay, I want to talk about what's your opinion on sex bots? So I'm sure you think sex bots are a great thing, right? I think they're an awesome thing, and I just want
Well,
your opinion.
help me define that because I'm not up to date with my sex bot
Okay,
terminology.
so in the future, there's already like sex dolls, right? If you're
Mhm.
familiar with sex dolls. Well, in the future, once they can create very advanced artificial intelligence, you're going to find, you know, these sex dolls evolving to the next level, and they're going to be like, interactive, and they're going to be like a real sex bot. And I think that if Elliot Rodger had something like a sex
Yeah,
bot,
yeah.
maybe he wouldn't have acted out, right? It's the sexual frustration, like you're saying.
So this is the evolution of the pocket pussy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could easily see this happening, and for many reasons. Like, first of all, I have not seen the movie, but Ex Machina, is
Oh,
that
I
the?
love that movie. You've no
Okay,
idea. Like she's everywhere. She's on my banner on my Facebook page. I love that movie.
are you serious?
Oh, I
Yeah,
love it.
actually, it's on my desktop background right now. But I haven't seen it, but I think it's cool. It has a cool look to it. But what is that about? Is nobody's having sex with that machine, or what is that?
Okay, have you seen the movie yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh gosh, you have to see this movie. It's so amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, it does involve the idea of sex bots.
Hmm.
Um, it's I don't want to give too much away, but
Okay.
it makes you jealous of. It made me jealous of robots. Like I want that a bit the ability to not age because the robots in this movie,
Uh,
they don't age. They have powers. They're like stronger and like
well, that is the appeal of it. That is, you've hit the nail on the head. Like one of the reasons we're fascinated with vampire movies and have been for forever is this idea of immortality. If vampires were not immortal, nobody would care. It would just be like, you know, a honeybee. It's like, yeah, it's great. Your pretty colors on you. You can fly. You're going to be alive a week. I don't care. So, but as far as sex bots, yeah, I think Austin Powers did some innovative work with this with his fembots. But I think it's easily a real possibility, especially considering who is the innovators in society. There's two groups, the military and the porn industry, because these are the two fundamental factors that drive humans. Our competitive desire against other humans, our desire to survive and to be
mm-hmm.
warlike and violent, and our desire to mate. I mean, this is as primal as it gets. There's nothing else. Food. The food industry will still be there. But the porn guys, these are the guys that innovated online streaming. They're the ones that chose VHS over beta. It was the porn industry. And so I have full faith in the porn industry. I've worked in the porn industry. Not, that sounded wrong. I've made websites for people that have worked in the porn industry, including Sasha Grey. And
Oh,
yeah, nice girl. Met up with her several times and went to her house, and we made a website, her first website. And yeah, she was a smart girl, really nice, really a bright girl, and she's doing a lot of other new things now. She's quite an interesting character.
yeah, she's in
But
like mainstream movies now. She's a total big
yeah,
actress.
yeah, she's got like her own brand, and she's got business ventures, and she's got a lot of passion. And actually, she's from Sacramento. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, she's from up there.
She's
Um,
an atheist too, right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I bet she is.
Although there
I think
are,
I saw that one time she is, or at
I've
least
done,
agnostic.
yeah, I've done a few videos on porn stars for Jesus. There's a whole like Christian movement within the porn industry. I mean, there's a Christian movement within every industry, but um, yeah,
Oh no, I saw videos you made on that.
yeah, there's a couple like high-profile girls who it's pathetic. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just it looks better than watching some old crusty guy talk about Jesus. Be like, hey, I used to be a porn star, but then I found Jesus.
Hmm.
But those are the ex-porn stars. There's like active porn stars who are into Jesus, which I don't know, whatever floats your boat. But actually, it is kind of hot seeing a porn star wear a crucifix. You know, just like getting nailed, and like the crucifix is like bashing up against her tits.
I bet.
That's got its own sort of, or tattoos. There's always religious iconography. Okay, but back to the what was that Joaquin Phoenix movie where he has a relationship with an
Oh,
artificial her? Yeah,
her.
I didn't see that, but that's got to be similar. It's an emotional relationship. It's not a sexual one.
Yeah. So imagine that only if the little, if instead of being talking through an iPhone, it's like a real life size robot
I
girl
mean,
or guy. Girls are going to have their own male sex bots too. But a
but
lot of feminists are really against this idea of sex
yeah,
bots.
and I could see that. I could see the dark side of this. I mean, there are going to be people that say this is not real, this is disgusting and sort of incestuous and just creepy and gross because they say engage in the real world, be with
Hmm.
real girls, don't just give up and like buy some machine that you can program just to get you off. I mean, it is sort of pathetic on many levels,
Hmm.
but but it's also like you were saying about religion and how the fear of hell is a calming factor. If every loser guy in this world had an attractive sex bot, this would, I mean, this would be so much better. Think of the crime rates. Think of the aggression that could just be
Yes.
alleviated. I mean, I'm all in favor for that, and I can easily see that this is the future.
Heck yeah. I think like honestly, I think it could prevent so many rapes and so many crime. It's such a good thing, right?
Well, let me tell you the worst part of the world, people in the world. It's young men. It is young men. And what is the difference between young men and everybody else? They are young, dumb, and full of cum.
Yep.
They have a will. They feel like their point to existence is to spread their seed. And guess what? A huge percentage of them cannot do that effectively at all. Like the Santa Barbara guy. Like there's many examples of this. You don't need to. We're on the internet for God's sakes. This is like all it is.
Yeah.
Um, so that is a frustration that turns to other outlets of violence, of suicide, of homicidal rage. This is what makes people just bitter and angry and if we could just, I think of Something About Mary and Ben Stiller. Remember Ben Stiller's character before he goes on a date, and he's all pent up and he's freaking out,
Yes.
and then his friend tells him you have to flog the dolphin, you have to rub one out before you go on a date with Cameron Diaz, and then he's calm and he's lucid and he's perfect. The date goes off, well, he had cum in his hair, but aside from that, on his ear.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good idea, man, but I don't know how many years away are we from that. Sam
Um,
Harris.
well, it depends on, I mean, we're going to have them relatively soon, but they're going to be very, primitive compared to what they're going to be in the future. Eventually,
Right.
they're going to be as advanced as like an Ex Machina. That's like as good as it gets. Like,
Okay. Well, Sam Harris has been talking about artificial intelligence and the idea that this is a very real thing, and that in the next 20 years, we got to have some real concerns about the machines sort of having their own agenda and short-circuiting all of society. So I wonder if you have two parallel lines of really kick-ass sex robots and the end of humanity due to the Terminator coming back. I don't know if we're going to have much time where the concentric circles are going to overlap.
yeah, the Terminator scenario. It's definitely a concern. Though I do think it's a bit overhyped. I think once we're to that level, we're going to have protective safeguards in place. We program these robots after all, right? So we're going to put safety. We're going to have an off switch for the robots,
Uh-huh.
and I think it's going to be pretty safe. I think robots. I'm very in favor of just the whole robot artificial intelligence revolution. I think it's going to be amazing. It could be our salvation. The robots could save us from existential threats, because they're going to be, way smarter. They can figure out solutions to problems that we cannot even comprehend, like how to protect ourselves from all
Yeah.
causes of death.
It was a sad day when the Russian chess player Kasparov lost to the Deep Blue. What was it? Computer, the IBM machine.
Oh yeah.
That was the beginning of the end. And I'm a huge chess nerd, so I play on occasion. Anytime I want to feel humbled, I go and play, and I'll win like 5 games in a row, and then I will lose to the same guy maybe 10 times in a row, and I'll just close my laptop and walk away to the bathroom and look in the mirror for a good 10 minutes and say, I am not smart. That man was smarter than me. Like physically and literally, he is better than me.
Well, that's not necessarily. It's a different type of smart, right? Just
Mhm.
because you're good at chess doesn't mean you're
Yes.
necessarily very smart.
No, I am extrapolating it, but it does feel that way very much. I like to humble myself sometimes.
That's good exercise for your brain too. It's probably going to prevent you from getting all like it can help you to exercise your brain in that way. It can help you like from getting Alzheimer's disease and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Chess is a true champion's game. It's the game of I don't know. I mean, I don't know what games people are playing, and people are playing a million video games online now. I do a lot of advertising work for the new video games. I just did a whole campaign for a video game called Uncharted, which apparently has a huge cult following. I mean, these games, they're like subcultures. They're like mini countries. A video game company will put a trailer for a video game, and the trailer gets like 50 million views. And the movie industry is looking at this going, what the hell are we doing? We got to get into video games. This is out of control.
Oh yeah.
And guess who's playing the video games? It's young, sexually repressed males trying to exercise this violence and this, what are video games aside from Anita Sarkeesian taught me it's all about women, objectification of women, and it's about violence. Why? Because we love it. I love it. It's amazing. This is exactly how I would have custom made the game for myself. And they know that, and we know
Yeah.
that.
You just wait till virtual technology. Video games are just gonna get
Hmm.
ridiculous. It's like you're
I
gonna
think,
be in a movie.
well, I think they're ridiculous now. If you could take somebody from the 1980s playing around with, dicking around with Smurf toys and, you know, action figures, and then flash forward to like some amazing, like, I don't know, what are the good games now? I don't know. There's just,
StarCraft
yeah, I
2.
mean, yeah, these world building, you're teaming up, you're talking shit to some kid in Korea. I mean, it's just like, wow, this is blowing my mind. I don't know. The Koreans are the best, though. You can't stop them. They
All
always,
right, let's move the conversation a little bit to Islam.
oh,
Like
my
I
favorite.
I just want to say that I want to thank you, and I'm sure so many other people thank you all the time for being so outspoken, because I think you're brave and courageous where other people, even myself, I'm not as brave. I like everything you say about
Mhm.
Islam. I'm like finding myself nodding my head and like yes, and but I'm not as brave as you are. I cannot express the full the way you do it is awesome. You know,
Well,
you've really
well, thank you for that. But I think I'm not that brave. I think guys like Majid Nawaz are brave, guys that are making public appearances, who are taking on individuals head on, who are, hitting the hornet's nest. I'm just more or less an anonymous guy with a small YouTube channel, stating my opinion. I'm not going, like, I could go out to Speaker's Corner, which is in Hyde Park here in London, where they talk about this. There's always going to be a Muslim guy there talking. And I could bring a camera crew and be like, hey, Muslims, my name's Devon Tracey, and this is what I fucking think about your idiotic death cult. But I'm not. But I could. But what's more troubling to me is that people don't agree with the things I'm saying about Islam. It's one thing to not say it because you have a family, because you don't want to get involved. Yeah. It's another thing to not call it out for what it is. To try to make excuses, to try to say, hey, let them have 1,000 years to reform this thing. That is not acceptable.
yep.
And my channel was mostly all Christian. Like I said, it started with Kirk Cameron, who is not Muslim, as far as I know. And I would love to see a Muslim Kirk Cameron, though. That'd be awesome. Um, he has grown out the beard, but and then it went to Sam Harris and Hitchens and Sarah Palin mockery, and it was all Christian. And I remember people would comment and they'd say, "When are you going to tackle Islam? You should do a video on Islam." And then just one terrorist attack after another, and eventually I was forced to address it. Even though I don't live in that world, I don't, I'm an American living in like places like Rio de Janeiro or Buenos Aires. These are not Muslim hotbeds, so it's not a concern of mine. But it's a concern of the world, and it's on people's minds. And if you don't talk about it, you better have a damn good reason.
Yeah. You're like, raising the awareness about this issue.
Mm,
You're like helping everyone who wants to live forever, indirectly, because let's face it, if the world got overtaken by a Sharia law or something, people like me are not going to have a chance to live
exactly.
forever.
Yeah, and that's how we should frame this debate as you should be against Islam because Islam is going to hold you back from the sex bots.
Yes.
Islam is cock blocking. Everybody knows they're cock blocking. They're cock blocking the gays. They're cock blocking men. Well, they weren't cock blocking Muhammad. That guy was going wild with the women. But I mean, yeah, it's awful. This is sexual repression. Religion needs to get out of the sex game. They need to give up on that. They don't have any revealed truth about sex. It's the exact opposite. They are backward and primitive on the topic and twisted. We need Chris Hansen. We need To Catch a Predator to walk. We'll do Chris Hansen like church edition, mosque edition, where he walks into a church or a mosque and be like, Pastor, why don't you take a seat right there? So, and just interview these people and be like, what is your stance on sexuality? What were you doing with that altar boy? Come again?
Yep. You know what else? I mean, it's crazy that Muslims are, worshiping and exalting the Prophet Muhammad, when
Hmm.
he is a pedophile, obviously, and raped a little girl. And this, you have to realize. I mean, you've said this before. I mean, this is sick, but it's also practically. I mean, these people could be literally influenced by this. I'm sure many Islamic pedophiles are influenced by this, and there's child brides happening today, and
Yeah.
it's obviously influenced by the Prophet Muhammad.
And the big difference between this and Christianity and Judaism, none of those characters existed. So, like, whatever sexual transgressions or fucked up things that Jesus did or didn't do, or Moses, or the story of Lot, like, Lot didn't offer his daughters to be raped. It's a story. It's a made up. These people didn't exist. Lot didn't sleep with his two daughters. Noah didn't fuck his family members. Adam didn't fuck Eve. Even as reprehensible as these stories are, that they're holding up like, let a mob rape your daughters or have incest, you know, they didn't have it. Muhammad did fuck a 9-year-old. This is a real guy. That's what's so scary about this. It's like Joseph Smith did fuck all these people's wives. Like, this is a different scenario. This is a con game from a sexual pervert, from a guy who just wanted to figure out a way to get more, vag. It's not that tricky. It's not hard to see what was happening here.
Yep, you're right.
Man. And I still never understand the virginity of Jesus and how this is a guy to hold up as an example of what to do. I will never take advice from a 33-year-old virgin. I mean, that's just not going to happen. I mean, it's so backward. They are so weirded out by the vagina. Like, to the point of, like, how was he given birth? Like, if they knew about a C-section back then, they would have had Mary had a C-section. Because they would not want their savior to have gone through the birth canal. And, like, he's got this vagina juice and, like, urine remnants on him and, like, afterbirth. They're like, no, it was a glorious, majestic C-section from the Lord. Of course, they didn't know it, but I guarantee you that would have been in there. The Immaculate C-section.
Yeah. Um,
Oh, yeah, but Islam, yeah, I feel more worried for, like, the all-knowing atheists who are taking on Islam now. And, but they're in Washington State. How
yeah.
many Muslims are up there?
Kudos to them, man. I
Uh,
I can only think of one thing worse than Islam: aging.
yeah, and they will prevent you from aging because they will kill you. We have
Yep.
we have seen evidence of this. Here in England, they're all abuzz about ISIS, or not ISIS, but Tunisia, and the event in Tunisia where all these English people got killed. And I don't know, people try to get on with their lives and not worry about it. And there's something to be said for that. I mean,
Yeah.
we just need to avoid these people, control them and avoid them. And hopefully you have a military and a Secret Service and a CIA and Black Ops and somebody's dealing with this on the borders and, online, because I don't want to spend my life worrying about these freaks.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. I have not spent my time worrying about these people, and I will intentionally avoid them as I go through life.
Yeah.
Because I don't, well,
And let's just say for the audience, there's people who are going to be listening to this and be like, "Oh, these people are against all Muslims. They have this evil agenda." Look, we're not talking about all Muslims. We're
right.
talking about the Islamic religion, which encourages radicalism. If you interpret the book of the Quran literally, it's an evil book that promotes violence and
Yeah,
evil.
of
And
course. It's great though, because this conversation, which it could have happened with the Ben Affleck incident where they threw out the red herring of, oh, you mean all Muslims like this? This conversation has been going on for years now, where we've explained over and over again that it's not all Muslims and that it is a spectrum and that you can go point by point. So I'm claiming that everybody who supports Sharia law is a threat to society. They are a threat to humanity. And we know for a fact that that number is over 1 billion people. So on that issue alone, if you want to talk about adultery, apostasy, freedom, and the way that they're against democracy, these are all issues that we have numbers on. And to varying degrees, I'm going to be against any given Muslim. So, like, what are their views on Jews? What are their views on women? What are their views on gays? There's a great chance they're going to have terrible views on those things. And I will scale my condemnation of them based on that. Now, even if the most benign Muslim in the world, I'm still against that guy. And here's where I part with other people. I am willing to say I am anti that person. So Majid Nawaz, I love the guy. He's a hero to me. He is brave beyond all, the guy is eloquent and has a lot of good ideas, and I share a lot of his values. I still am against his belief in God. I still think it's a dangerous, idiotic concept. I think he is moronic to think that there is a God based on no evidence. But I agree with the guy on almost everything. It's just not that. So
Yeah.
that he is on the top of the spectrum, and people like ISIS are on the bottom. Or flip it, however you want to view it, that is the spectrum. And I'm against all of them to varying degrees. But, nobody wants to talk about that. They want a bumper sticker. Oh, are you an Islamophobe? Oh, you're against Muslims? Okay. You're a hateful bigot. It's
Yeah.
just it's weak and it's lazy. But this conversation cannot go on and on. It must move forward past that red herring.
I totally agree. And I want to ask, like, do you think that people who believe in God, religious people, do you think that that's a choice? Because when I believed in God, I didn't feel like it was my choice. Like, I just felt like I was convinced.
Well, here's the answer. Let me ask you this. Did your parents believe in God?
Yes.
And there you have it. I mean, children will believe whatever. Your parents are your gods. I'm using that in a metaphoric way. We look up to them. They are everything to us. They are the sun and the moon. They are Adam and Eve, quite literally, for us. So if they're going to impart their deeply held convictions about religion, of course we're going to accept it as the gospel. That's true. And it gets intertwined with the desire to not dissociate from our parents, to not disappoint our parents. We crave their love and approval. So to spit in the face of their sacred belief system is to basically guarantee their disapproval and guarantee an estrangement from them. So we have a very conflicted thing. I was lucky enough to be raised in an irreligious family. I mean, it just wasn't talked about. My father was an atheist, but he wouldn't even say he was an atheist because he literally wouldn't even. It was just common sense. Of course, I don't believe in this shit. That's what the church. That's what the Church of England is. I mean, and he's of the generation of Richard Dawkins, and he had a very similar life to Richard Dawkins. Both born in Africa and raised in England in a boarding school, and then both sort of dropped the religious bullshit early on. Same with Hitchens. I mean, all these guys, they saw through it, and then they got on with their lives. And they're just like, I couldn't be bothered with this. But yeah, I don't think you choose it. I think it's indoctrinated, and then also the community you come from. So I don't know if Sacramento at that time was highly religious, but I'm sure you were going to church, and there was a whole routine.
Yep. And when I changed into an atheist, I also felt that it wasn't a conscious choice. It wasn't like, oh, I'm deciding to be an atheist. No, it was just I was all of a sudden not convinced that there's a God.
Right. I would equate it to when you look for something to masturbate to, you look for what you are turned on by. You don't choose what you're turned on by. You're just turned on by it. So, I mean, it would be like me saying, you know what, today when I fap, I'm going to fap to penguin porn. That's my choice. I couldn't do it. I could not physically muster up the ability to reach orgasm off penguins. So that's just what you are. You are what you are. I mean, yeah, so this is more like a instinctual, subconscious thing. I mean, there are some people who shamelessly believe something for other motives. They have reasons to do it. And like you say, I mean, you are a rarity. I've never heard somebody say, I'm an atheist, I can't believe in all that horseshit, but I strongly want to live forever. You usually don't hear that, because usually people flush out the desire or the hope to live forever with the theism.
Yeah. Transhumanism it's an interesting subculture. It's a growing movement, and a lot of atheists I want to bring more atheists into the transhumanist movement because realistically, technology is an amazing thing, and potentially technology could actually extend our lives indefinitely. And so I'm trying to give atheists and saying, hey, look, atheists, you don't have to give up on the hope of eternal life. Maybe we could do this in a physical, using science and technology.
It sounds like a quote from Woody Allen. Woody Allen said, sometimes people ask me if I want my work to if I want to live forever, and they say, yes, your work will live on in eternity and people appreciate it. He says, no, I want to live forever as in I personally get to live forever. Like, I don't want, forget my work, forget some poetic expression of eternity. No, literally, physically.
Yep, I know that quote. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to live on in the hearts of my countrymen. I want to live on in my apartment. That's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, and Hitchens said the same thing. Hitchens was quoted always as saying, it doesn't bother me that I will be in oblivion. What bothers me is that you people won't be, and the party goes on, and I'm not invited.
I know that video you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, that's a very honest assessment. It's like, are you worried about the time before you were born, the billions of years? No, nobody is, because we didn't know what we were missing. But now, once you're alive, now you do know what you're missing. You know all the experiences, you know all the joy and the happiness that you will never attain because you're dead. Yep. Because Allahu Akbar, or because you went on the wrong flight and some German dickhead decided to crash the plane.
That's really what it is, honestly. Like, for me, it's a jealousy. Like, I know that sounds bad, but I am jealous of the idea of, just like Hitchens, I don't want. It's just so unfair. It's like being not invited to a party. Like, you're gone. You get to miss out on eternity while there's other people that get to live. It's just horrible.
Well, and while I can appreciate the desire and the aspiration to live forever, most people would just say, look, I'm aware that life is finite. I have accepted it begrudgingly, and I'm going to make the most of the time given. And you can't slip into a mode of just being in a panic about the inevitability of your death, and not only your death, the death of everybody you love. Because then it takes away from the sacred thing, which is we only have a finite amount of time.
But that's the thing, though. If you say why consent to that it's inevitable? Because by saying that it's an inevitable, you're not going to have the motivation to actually try to live forever, right?
Okay, well then, yes, then we appropriate a certain amount of our budget to the nerds and the scientists and say, guys, go for it, get in the lab and figure some shit out, please. Maybe we do put some research into that. Just like we're putting research into random space travel and looking for aliens, and we have budgets that are, what's so important about Mars, or another trip to the moon? Do we need another soil sample? Come on, guys, screw the geologists, get on fixing aging.
Yes, you said it right there. Just forget the space program. Well, we're gonna need it eventually once we secure aging, just so we don't overpopulate the planet. It's nice to have other planets to colonize. No, but you're right. Yeah. We need more research for aging. There's a guy running for president right now named Zoltan Istvan. He's the head of the Transhumanist Party, and he wants to put. Yeah.
That name is never going to get elected. What was his name again?
Zoltan Istvan.
That can't be a real name. That sounds like a character out of some cartoon, some anime, like Robotech or something.
He's from Hungary, so it's like a popular Hungarian name.
Nice. I've lived in Budapest a couple times, so I should know that.
I'm not sure he's from Hungary, but he is some kind of maybe ancestry from Hungary. But he wants to put at least $1 trillion into life extension technology.
Well, here's the problem. Here's the issue. We need to get rid of our petty terrestrial problems. So all this mindless tribalism and we do not have our shit together on many fronts, like energy, food production, nationalism. So we can't even worry about this stuff. That's why, Neil deGrasse Tyson's freaking out because we're cutting NASA's budget. Why? Because we're spending money on Iraq, $1 trillion and stupid shit like that. That accomplishes nothing.
Yeah.
And so that is very frustrating. That we're still dealing with what happened this week. gay marriage gets passed.
Mm-hmm.
Think of all the energy spent on this non-issue. Imagine if this was just, all the money and time people have spent on this. Put that time in something useful. Forget the gays. Who cares about the gays? It's like let the gays do whatever the gays are doing whatever they want anyway, regardless of what you say about it. So let
Yeah,
them.
I agree. I mean, it's great now that they have the right to marry, and let's give them the right to be married and happily alive forever. Because if we don't cure aging, all the gays that marry, they're all gonna die, and it sucks for everyone.
Yeah, well, I don't think gays are overly concerned with breeding in terms of prolonging. Well, maybe more and more are. I'd be interested to see a graph on that. Gay couples who want to have babies, and not just adoptions, but like carry on their genetic code. Because
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know, my sense of it is that it's far more prevalent now. Maybe it's just because they're more open and mainstream, but I don't know. Somebody would provide a graph on that, but yeah, I feel bad for us. I mean, we're not using our resources in the most ideal way possible. That's safe to say.
Yeah. Like I
I
want to
think,
know, like when
mhm,
you became what you were an atheist your whole life? I forgot.
yeah, whole life.
Okay. So you never had like the hope of living forever like I was raised with.
Hmm. Yeah, for me, my mother died when I was 5, and that basically accelerated my process of seeing life for what it is. There was no reason for this death. This was, why did this happen? How could this happen? All those questions came into play, and I sort of figured it out. Like, this is the world we live in. This is the fucked up nature of it. There are no guarantees. There is no safety net. This is just how it is. And so, yeah, I just always was an atheist. None of it made sense to me. And I think that's a small percentage of the atheist community. There are guys like Sam Harris and me who are just like not. We never were into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what was your question?
So you weren't raised with the idea. So your
Mhm.
earliest thoughts about death was you didn't have any consolation, any comfort
Right, right.
around the idea of death. And
Mhm.
so, what were your original like thoughts as a child? Go back as
Okay.
far as you can. Were you terrified by it? Did you have a fear of death? Uh,
Yes, yes. So basically, I had my reaction was utter and complete panic. I was totally overwhelmed as a 5-year-old. My psychology, my emotionality, it was all not equipped to deal with this. Intellectually, none of it. I was totally fragile and scared to death. I was scared that everybody else was going to die. And to my horror, later in life, I realized on a real level that in fact is the case. Everybody you love is going to die. So, yeah, I was 5 years old, mother dies, and I started having night terrors. So I would wake up in the middle of the night crying. Actually, no, that didn't start until my sister died. So my stepsister died 3 years later. So a car accident. And now that one had almost a multiplied effect. It wasn't just like 2 deaths. It was like, oh shit, death is stalking me. Oh shit, it is true. Everybody I love is going to die. Because my father remarried and a woman who had 2 daughters, and one of them died. And then that sent me into a panic, and I would wake up and walk around crying, and just I would be asleep but crying. And this happened for months, and they sent me to therapy and all sorts of things, and eventually it took a long time for me to sort of process it or get through it. I didn't get through it necessarily. I just, went on to other things. And it was in my mid 20s when I actually had to face this whole thing again. And it started with my cat dying. My cat of like 15 years died. And that triggered some psychological stuff that I had never resolved. I had never resolved it. So my solution to my mother dying was my father is here. The world is safe. I'm going to be okay because my father's here. That was my solution. And that was my solution into my mid 20s, whether I knew it or not. I was a person operating on a 5-year-old's solution to the riddle of death. I did not stare at it in the face. I did not want to. I did not. This was like the boogeyman demon. You know, people say, I have demons, I have skeletons in my closet. Like, this for me was this dark thing of, oh shit, there is no God, and oh shit, everybody I love is going to die, and I can do nothing to stop it. And to really address that, not just on a surface level, I'm talking about really as a, some people say spiritual, but on a deep, truthful, core level, to actually address that void, that chasm of darkness, of meaninglessness, and come to terms with it and actually accept it. That is a process that many people have not gone through. There are hundreds of millions of people who have not gone through that process, and they are continually deluding themselves because they cannot go through the process. It's like the Matrix. You cannot pull out somebody if they've been in the Matrix too long. You think you're going to walk up to Ken Ham and be like, Ken, there is no heaven. Deal with it. Take the blue pill. He would die. He's not going to come out of it. Keanu Reeves barely made it out. So yeah, that's basically how I dealt with it. It's not an easy one. Your issue being death and eternal life, that is the issue that we are all talking about. We're not, this whole thing, atheism versus God belief, it has nothing to do with ancient scriptures and all this fucking nonsense about old stories and morality. That is window dressing. It is about death, first and foremost, and that is like, there's no getting around it. What we're talking about is eternal life, and we live in a world where billions of people think they will live forever. You hope you will live forever, but you also understand you will not live forever, and that separates you.
Well, wait a second. I understand that I might not live forever.
You're an optimist. You're a real optimist. You realize how slow things change. I mean,
yeah.
Unless we have look, we have the internet, and that can only help your cause. But, we are not that advanced. When did we invent Velcro? 1980-something? I mean, eternal life might be a few generations removed from us. So,
I know.
But you can hold on to hope.
You're stirring up the demons in my psyche. It's my greatest fear that I won't get to live forever.
But see, here's the thing.
Go on.
If you, like what you just said, the fact that you're aware of what's happening inside of you, the fact that you're aware of the terror that death presents to you, that is a very healthy thing. And it sounds like you're somebody that has spoken out about this and have been honest with yourself about it. Like you're not repressing it, you're not hiding it, you're not burying it under superstition and nonsense. You're saying, this is how I feel. I feel terrible that I'm going to die. And I'd love to take action and take steps to prevent that. Which is, gleefully optimistic, but I think we should lower our expectations and let's hope for sex robots. Let's get the sex robots first, and then we'll get death, the defeat of death afterwards.
Oh my gosh. Well, living forever is a bit more important than sex robots.
What's the point of living forever if you don't have a sex robot?
That's a good point. Well, I love that you totally brought up the big elephant in the room. That's what I think death is, right? It's the big elephant in the room. It is the most horrible thing, and that's the reason for religion. That's the main reason. Like, I made this little video. Did you see the video I made of a speech you gave on your channel, and I put little pictures to it on my channel?
No, I haven't. What speech was that?
You're gonna have to watch it after our interview. Yeah, I made you actually, how you talk a lot about how the reasons, the motivation behind religion, and you say it's death, like you just said.
Right.
And so I took a little speech that you gave on your channel, and I put pictures to it. Like, I remixed a little bit of your speech because it's so true, and that needs to come out in the open. People need to realize that it's really, Karl Marx said it. Religion is the opiate of the masses. People cannot handle death. It's too terrifying.
Yeah.
So they must believe there's a God. And this needs to, people need to be talking about this. And that's another issue that I love that you cover a lot.
Yeah, it is the biggest issue. And in fact, I've never told anybody this, but I have been planning, and have been for like a year, a huge series about death. And it's just called All Men Must Die. I mean, it's just from Game of Thrones. Valar Morghulis. Right. All men must die, and this is the whole thing. And I've been downloading over the past year videos relating to this. There's a lot of videos that people have talked about this. Monty Python has talked about this. Sam Harris has given an entire lecture on this. This is the issue, and it's an existential crisis. We are primates on a rock that is revolving and spinning around a ball of gas, and this is an outrageous situation to be in. To be mortal is a ridiculous situation, and we're given all these glorious things in the world: love and compassion and friendship, and this amazing world we live in, and it's all finite. How fucked up is that?
It is.
And there's no answer. And the thing is, the atheists we have platitudes. Our answer is honest, and it's blunt, and it's painful. We're not sugarcoating it. There are some people who are trying to sort of come up with a transitional way, because it is a massive jump to go from I'm going to live forever in the sky in a cloud fiesta to no, you're not. You're going to be in a dial tone situation where you're dead. And what do you do to put a ramp in between those two positions? It's not like we're saying you're going to be dead, but it's okay because X.
Well, actually, Sam Harris kind of does say that. He actually kind of does sugarcoat death, because he says, he has this one speech where death in the present moment, you've probably even seen this video. And he says, life is the problem. Because he's coming from the perspective that when you're dead, you're not going to feel suffering. You're not going to know you're dead. And so therefore, what's the big deal kind of a thing? And I'm like, no, that is wrong. Yeah. Death is a problem because of what you're going to be missing out on.
Yeah, but Woody Allen would not be happy with that answer. And neither am I. Yeah. I don't think anybody else is. This is a poetic sentiment. But it doesn't reach what we're talking about, which is our survival instinct. We are apes who are like grunting at each other like, oh shit, we are going to die. Every other one of us have died, never to return. Can we do something about that? I view that as a problem. But Sam Harris would probably instantly then talk about uploading consciousness. That might be something. If we could upload consciousness, that would probably interest you, because, you could replace the body, replace the mechanical, physical part, and the us part is our brain. That is our consciousness. I am not my pinky. I am not my 12-inch penis. I am my brain. So...
It does interest me. Mind uploading is an option, but I almost see it as even more wishful thinking than curing aging, because the whole mind uploading thing where it gets tricky is, how do you, when you upload your consciousness into some computer, the question is that me at that point? Did you maintain yourself in that process of transferring yourself to a freaking computer chip? It seems a little bit wishful thinking.
Okay, well, we don't know the answers to that, but here's what we do know. We know that we know almost nothing about the brain. The brain science is a new fledgling thing. Like Sam Harris, what he knows about neuroscience will be laughed at in 100 years from now. They'll look back and be like, oh my God, those guys, it's the equivalent of them poking at the gray matter with a stick and going, oh, when I poke it here, it does this. Let's call that neuroscience. You know what the Nazis were doing with brain shit on their on the Holocaust people? The Holocaust people, the Jews and the Gypsies and all these people. They had their scientists like trying to figure out, neuroscience. So they were like cutting shit up and lobotomizing people, and like we are barely scratching the surface of what the brain is. We don't know what's happening, but in 100 years, in 1,000 years, the questions we're entertaining now will seem rudimentary and embarrassing that we did not know. We don't know what consciousness is. We don't know how the me exists. I think, when you compare these things, I just think that there's a lot more to go in terms of neuroscience.
Absolutely. So you're very skeptical that we could cure aging. That's reasonable. Mm-hmm. So you're more optimistic about the possibility of like mind uploading your consciousness?
I think in terms of which one is more possible, I would say they're probably on similar paths. I am optimistic about science and humanity in the big picture. Mm-hmm. I am couching this in the fact that you're talking about your and my lifetime. That is a different conversation. In 1,000 years, I would not put anything past humans. I mean, especially with modern science and especially with the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, this is there's a multiplying effect. This is growing at a rate that is incredible. So I think that we can do these things. It's like my balding thing. I'm not going to hold my breath that they're going to have a cure for balding. Will they have a cure for balding? Yes, they will. Will I be around to see the joys of that? No, I won't. Or it would be too late. I mean, whatever. I've done well enough as a bald
That's
man.
the real question is like, so you're saying like if you'd actually survive past a certain point in the future, then you would be optimistic that you could actually live forever. Like you think future people eventually are going to have a time where people actually live forever, but you're just worried that it's not going to happen in time for you. And I am too. That is my biggest worry.
Look, if not forever, then hundreds of years more than we live now, which I'm sure you will take. You know, you're not gonna dismiss that. But I mean, even now, look at the life rate. Well, the life expectancy in Zimbabwe is like 42. The life expectancy in New Zealand is like 83. You know, that's a pretty massive difference. So, I mean, if they could get it up to 300 years, imagine that. 200 years, 100 years. You know, we've made leaps and bounds progress on this front. It's just you and me and everybody are greedy motherfuckers. We don't want progress. We want the whole enchilada.
Yes.
I want 1,000-year. It's like 1,000-year Reich. You know, like the Germans. 1,000-year Reich plus sex bots. Can I get that? You know, please. Let's get some nerds on that. Lawrence Krauss, stop what you're doing and work on this.
And if we live to be 1,000 years, by that time,
exactly,
we want to live to be, you know, millions of years and billions.
Right, but if aging has something to do with cells and the degeneration of cells, then I'm sure that the nerds are going to come up with something. If somehow we could connect this to the porn industry, I'm sure they would get it done in a fortnight. But they're busy making money off, you know, carnal action.
Oh my gosh, you just gave me an idea. I need to like make a sex bot fan club and feed that traffic into the Eternal Life fan club or something.
Exactly. We need to divert some of the funds that go into the porn industry and send that over to the Eternal Life Fund.
So I want you to talk a little bit more about your upcoming series, because this is like whoa, I can't believe you're going to make a series called All Men Must Die, because just by the title of it, I would say that's just like, that's blasphemy. Like, you cannot say that all men must die, because it kind of discounts the possibility. So I hope that in that series, you're at least going to give the possibility that that death is like the enemy. We should be fighting it, right? We should be trying to live forever.
I think that deserves a video of its own, and I will restate that I am charmed by your focus on this topic, but I think we must face the fact that every biological organism, which is in the gazillion, I don't think we have a number of how many life forms have existed on the planet, they have all died. This is not a good track record for us looking at it, you know, matter-of-factly. So it's very safe to say that all men must die, and, you know, Game of Thrones says it, so it must be right. So, yeah, that is the main issue, and everything else is a distraction. And so for me not to be doing videos on death, or at least put it up there for posterity, I think it does a disservice to what I'm talking about, which is atheism. So in other words, me talking about some chapter in the Bible and why it's bullshit is so not the point.
Yeah.
The whole reason there is a Bible, the whole reason those idiots back then and the idiots today are in a frenzy about it all is because they're freaked out about death. So let's talk about death. And this is what Sam Harris said in his speech. I mean, he has thought about this. Sam Harris went to a cave in, like, India and sat down for a year, and this is one of the thoughts that he came up with. And he was right. And more people should be aware that this is the crux of the whole thing.
So what is the ultimate message of this series going to be? Or do I have to be surprised? Is it going to be like, how do you handle death? Like,
yeah. There's many sides to it. There's many fronts. So it's highlighting the fact that this is the issue. It's showing the way people cope with it. So different groups have different coping mechanisms. It's maybe addressing the fact that atheism is sort of a blunt tool, and honesty is a blunt tool. Nobody wants honesty. Who said honesty is a good thing? It's a painful destructive, horrible thing, especially when it is a painful thing. I mean, you cannot deny the fact that death is a buzzkill. So maybe a discussion about how we put this. I mean, if some kid grows up and he's 10, 15 years old in 20 years, he's going to be going through the same existential crisis. He's not going to want to die. How do we present the case that there is no forever party in a way that's remotely palatable?
How about by saying, if you die and cease to exist, your life was meaningless, 100% meaningless.
No, so like we have all these poetic ways to do it, but I mean, look at Walt Disney. I don't know if he froze himself or not, but there are people that have frozen themselves. That is one way to cope with this. Freeze yourself, wait for people to figure it out, unfreeze yourself. Obviously, this definitely will not work, but there's a chance, and people love hope. And this is the thing.
Yes.
Here's the point. Like, I could do a whole video on this. What do you hear Christians always talk about? Hope. They say, we have a hope. Where is your hope? If you're an atheist, where is your hope? They never finish the sentence. Hope in what? Hope that the Golden State Warriors will repeat as NBA champions? No. It's hope that I will live forever.
Yep.
That is the sentiment. I get my hope that I will live forever from John 3:16, which says I will live forever. Why do you think that's the most popular verse in the Bible? I did a whole video on that. The most popular verse in the Bible is John 3:16, and there is every reason in the world for you to understand why that is the case.
That's the video I remixed, by the way. I took your little speech from that. Yeah,
okay.
It's about John 3:16.
Exactly, and there, once you realize the reason that's the most popular verse in the Bible, you can push aside all the distractions and the nonsense and see this issue for what it is. And man, I mean, it is a real problem, and our solution, I mean, look, who is heading the mission to alleviate the transition from a belief that you never die to an acceptance that you do die? Who's the head of that project? It's not Richard Dawkins, it's not Sam Harris. They're trying, and they will hit on the topic, but there is no organization that cares about that. I mean, Matt Dillahunty and the Atheist Experience, they'll talk about it, but there is no cohesive answer to that.
But is that a helpful message? I mean, I don't think I want people to accept death, because if they're accepting of death, are they going to try to cure aging? Are they even going to care? Okay, so I don't want them to accept death.
Yeah, I mean, that is another aspect, which I really have never thought of because I just don't think it's plausible in our lifetime. But it's perfectly legitimate to say, look, we are trying to figure this out, and if we could prevent death and aging or prolong life, then people will be doing that. I mean, what do you think happens when somebody gets cancer? They get some rare form of cancer. What do their loved ones say? They don't say, well, you're a goner, see ya, sucks to be you. No, they say, there's a new age guy in Germany who's figuring something out. He's trying. There's an experimental drug over here. We could try that. Just hold on for a few years. Science is trying. They're trying. That's what they say to them. So yeah, you can mention that, but you don't want people to hold unrealistic expectations that, Neil deGrasse Tyson is going to cure death.
Not Neil deGrasse Tyson, but seriously though, you got to research Aubrey de Grey, especially before you finish this series, because it really might change your whole perspective. Like, I know it seems like science fiction, especially if you haven't really studied it, but once you start studying, like the leaps and bounds they're making, like Ray Kurzweil, he talks about that science is exponentially advancing, right? It's an exponential curve. And so we're going to see some of that in medicine. And with aging, we do have, it is realistic that, a lot of people are predicting that it could happen, in our lifetimes.
I understand that you and I could be having this conversation 100 years ago, and we could have been talking about DNA or cellular anything, quantum anything. In fact, we wouldn't even have been talking about that because the scientists of the day didn't even know it existed. So like where we're at with the brain science and neuroscience, and where we're at with space travel or DNA, like these things are fledgling. And I understand the exponential growth, and in 100 years It's going to be amazing what we know about these fields. So I really don't put it past us. And I would say that like, for example, aliens. Are there aliens out there? Yes. Will you and I see aliens? Probably not. Will future humans see aliens? Probably so. So it's just a matter of timing. It's just a timing thing and a percentage thing. What are the odds, realistically speaking, what are the odds that you and I will see aliens? Either they will contact us, we will contact them, one way or the other. It's not likely.
I don't
But
know that I'm not as well, I'm not, my answer would be different because I'm not as confident that they actually exist. Like you're they
oh,
exist for like you're almost so sure, like 100%.
100%.
And wait, when
Absolutely.
you say aliens, you mean conscious, like intelligent, like
Yeah.
aliens?
First of all, life on other planets and other galaxies, but also, yeah, intelligent life by definition. Just having gone through the same evolutionary process, there's no reason to think that it wouldn't have been. We have billions upon billions. I mean, this is a certainty.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, haven't you gotten into that star stuff and all the seeing how big the universe is and the
Uh,
odds of it?
I know it's big, but I'm just I mean, I hope.
Yeah,
I
but this
hope
is
aliens are real, and that I hope they come and save us. I hope we have, they come and save us from aging, and they share their
yeah.
advanced technology.
But this sounds like a remnant from your Christian days because as Christians, you're taught that you're the center of the universe. It's all about humans. We are the middle. We are the point of the whole universe. We are a speck of nothingness. We are just a degenerate little floating fart in the fucking galaxy.
Yeah.
So that once you sort of wrap your brain around that concept and be like, oh my God, this is a vast, unimaginably large realm in which we are living, then it becomes obvious that of course there's other life. I mean, didn't we find water? We found water on Mars this year. I mean, what does that tell you? So I don't know. I'm hopeful, but we'll see. We need to figure out the space-time continuum thing. We need to get the wormhole situation
Oh yeah,
fixed.
this reminded me. Did you see the movie Interstellar?
Yeah, which one was that? Yeah, with
Oh, that's
McConaughey or
yeah, wasn't that good?
yeah, that was a entertaining, intellectually sort of fun thought sort of experiment to think what if this was actually the case.
Yeah, and then what do you think about? Um, I guess you probably don't believe that we were seated, and some people think we were seated here, like by aliens.
Yeah, I've people unfortunately close to me in my personal life who think that, and that is comical. I know there's a lot of shows about that, and unbelievably, they point to the pyramids as an example of alien intelligence.
Yeah, ancient aliens.
Holy Christ, a pile of rocks is all it takes for people to hold on to this hope.
Yeah,
And that to me is sad and yet ultimately very human that we want there. We want there to be magic. We want there to be some alien crazy, we're so important that they stacked up a pile of rocks. It's like, what the hell? No, this is not the case. Here, put it this way: you give me 10,000 Egyptians and 50 years, and I will build you a pyramid. Okay? Give me ropes, give me logs, give me manpower. I will get it done. Okay? Screw the ancient aliens.
yeah. I have to say I completely agree with you. Many atheists grasp onto the ancient aliens idea almost like religious people grasp onto God. It's like they need there to be some hope.
Well, I mean, maybe there's something more to be said about the asteroids hitting the Earth that had some sort of DNA in it. Some sort of, I don't know. See, I'm not a scientist. I'm so not a scientist. None of this shit interests me.
Yeah,
I'm like a visual, I'm like an artist, if anything. I'm more into the making stuff and music videos, and a lot of atheism is sort of hijacked or dominated by nerds, scientists. Like I, I think I'm in the minority of the atheist community that I don't just like revel in the scientific method. I mean, I appreciate all that these guys do, but you will not find me looking into microscopes.
yeah.
I
Me
mean,
too.
it's just whatever. Go for it, guys, and make me that sex robot. But I'm going to be doing other stuff.
Yeah. I mean the practical application, like I'll use what the nerds come up with as far as like diet and longevity
Right.
strategies. Like, are you into health at all? I know you're big into fitness and you said you do like you eat a healthy diet, right?
Yeah, my girlfriend's a vegan, so I am a de facto vegan. She loves cooking, and she's like a really masterful chef. So I'm basically a vegan, although I sneak out and eat some meat sandwiches, which are made by Muslims, actually, surprisingly. And yeah, I mean, yeah, we're making leaps and bounds and progress on the nutrition front, and
And the eating of meat, you made a video. Let's talk about this a little bit. Like you
Mhm.
made a video where you said that was like one of the issues you were considering that you might be wrong about, like the morality of eating meat,
Yeah,
right?
I'm not really I'm not really sold on my listening to myself. If I had to vocalize the reasons why I think it's okay to eat cows, chicken, and fish, as opposed to every other animal, it's not that convincing even to me, which is a weird position to be in.
Yeah.
You know, so basically, my answer is I eat cows, chicken, and fish and lamb because I do, because I like the taste. Okay, so why don't you eat cats and dogs and horses? Well, that's wrong. Okay, well, why? Because I don't eat those things? I wasn't raised eating those things? I mean, these are weak answers. It's just like if somebody came to me and said, cats taste great, what moral position am I taking then?
Okay, here's an interesting one. What if they came to you and said, cats make me live longer? And they had a scientific backing that says, if you eat cat meat, you're going to live longer.
Mhm.
Then would the issue change for you?
I mean, I would still have a moral issue with it because I'm a cat guy, and I just think it would be horrible to do that. But maybe then some scientist says, okay, well, we're going to breed these cats to not feel, and we're going to harvest the meat of non-feeling cat bodies. You know, maybe there's a little moral loophole there. I don't know. I mean, I believe that morality should extend to the animal kingdom.
Mhm.
I don't think we should have animal rights. I think we should have just rights for all life forms. But then again, even hearing myself say that, I don't care about moths and spiders and shit. I mean, fuck them.
Yeah.
So obviously there is a difference between humans and how we deal with one another as humans. But like I mentioned in my video, dolphins, and the fact that dolphins are considered non-human persons, and that this is the official labeling that they've been given, which
Yeah.
is such an fu to every religious person on the planet. To call a dolphin a non-human person. Imagine what the Bible says about that. The Bible would be like, no, dolphins are fucking have dominion over the dolphin. It's a piece of meat. Eat it. It's a fish. You know, no, it's just as valid a creature as you are, you pathetic ape. And that's a message that people do not want to hear. They want to hear I'm superior.
Okay, now let me ask you the
Mhm,
same one of the same questions I asked the all-knowing atheists,
mhm.
which is that if you had to choose between saving the life, you have pets right now currently?
Yeah, I have my cat, and she's in France. She lives in
Okay.
France. So, yeah.
If you had to choose right now between saving the life of your cat
Mhm.
or saving the life of a random human being,
Right.
which would you choose?
Yeah, that these are the kind of thought experiments that I'm sure if put in an honest situation, in public, obviously I say the human. In private, I probably don't because I don't care about other humans. I mean, and that is a gargantuan statement to make that nobody would say in public, but do I shed tears about the people that are being killed? You and I could go on CNN.com right now and read reports of multiple deaths. You know, let's go through the obituaries. Do we care? No. We're not supposed to care. We're not built to care. We can only deal with our immediate surroundings. I mean, and then there's a spectrum. How old is the human in question? Is it a 95-year-old? Is it a baby? Is it a fetus? So if you said a fetus dies or my cat, I say bye bye fetus. If you say a 10-year-old versus my cat, bye bye my cat. If you say a 95-year-old versus my cat, bye bye 95. I mean, maybe not. I mean, maybe not if actually pressed to it, I might have to accept. But then again, this is like Sophie's Choice. Who is putting me in this position? You know, this is a massive theoretical here, but I hear what you're going for.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like in the vegan community, there's a lot of people that are like, I
Mm-hmm.
think taking it too much to an extreme. They're saying that anyone who says humans are like more valuable than an animal,
Mm-hmm.
they're like categorizing those people as speciesist. Oh, you're speciesist.
Yeah,
And I'm
species.
like, heck yeah, I'm a speciesist. It's my own species. Like, I should be a speciesist. Like, humans are just more important.
Yeah, but I mean, look, if we're talking about the future and science and technology, it could easily happen that humans come up with other food products that doesn't require we kill biological organisms. I mean, good God, what are the reason we eat this stuff? The taste? I mean, they could come up with some product. The Jetsons figured it out. Why can't we? I mean, look,
They're already coming up with like lab grown meat
right. So
grown in the lab.
if it's texture based, if it's taste issues, if it's nutrient, I mean, you know they can come up with something that's more nutritious for you.
Oh, yeah.
That's not the issue. We're just creatures of habit who are just ritualistically eating this shit because it tastes good to us. Like it satisfies some craving we have. That's garbage. We're killing animals. We're like polluting the earth doing this. This is terrible. So I could easily see in the next 100 years a massive shift on this front where we just start to slowly get rid of these old customs we have that we don't need anymore because of technology. And this has happened on every other front. You know, we don't do shit because we don't need to do it anymore. We figured out better ways. So yeah, I think, but again, I would not want to bash my head against a tree and fight this thing of everybody needs to stop eating meat today because that will not happen in your lifetime. So you have to sort of have an awareness of that fact and not waste your life on an issue that is, well, that's the thing. The vegans don't think they're wasting their life. They think that they are promoting this and pushing humanity in a good direction.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy, but I think you have to have a little perspective on the realism of these things actually changing in the near future.
Yeah, I'm a vegetarian personally, but if someone like came up with me and convinced me that eating meat actually extended my life, it'd be a different story. I would actually start eating meat. I would, to live longer.
Well, see, and then again, once again, this conversation goes to religion. Why? Because this concept of you just said, which is, should I eat meat if it does something for me? Now you've entered a moral dilemma. You have to say, can I justify this morally? This is why they have movies about, like, The Island, which was organ harvesting.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, awesome. Was it Scarlett Johansson, right?
Yep.
Okay, so like you're creating clones, and is this okay? How can we rationalize that? So, I don't know. It's just, and oh yeah. So once you enter into a moral debate, guess who's coming to the party? Religion. And they're going to try to dominate and be like, oh, you mentioned morality? Well, you have to follow this book from 1,000 years ago. What the fuck? No, we don't. The book that condones slavery? No, we don't. So once you enter a moral debate, now you got to deal with the religious bullshit. So what are we trying to do as atheists today? We're trying to peel back the layers of superstition and bullshit and just eradicate religion, or at least debunk it, discredit it, and expose it for what it is, to the point that we don't have to waste our time talking about what Moses, a fictional fucking character, said from a fictional book. No, now we can actually talk about animal rights. We can actually talk about the morality of veganism or the abortion. We can have a matter-of-fact, humanistic-based discussion where we're not spinning our wheels dealing with shit like gay marriage.
Yeah.
That is an abortion, that we waste our time talking about gay marriage instead of sex robots.
Yeah. Yeah, but animal testing, if you come to the issue of animal testing, then it's a moral question too. Like, is it worth it to sacrifice the lives of these animals,
right,
if it's gonna save, cure diseases and help humanity in so many different ways? Like, I would say yes. What about you?
There might be some necessary evils, and there might be some ways to do it that is as humane as possible. I find it funny that we use the word humane in these situations, because with the root word of human, humans are not humane. I mean, that's the glorious part of it. Humans are fucked up beyond belief. We're the ones that created all this like evil shit going on. And look around. How long do you have to surf around YouTube, or no, better, Live Leak, before you come to the conclusion that humans are not humane? Go to World Star Hip Hop. You will not have a good impression of human beings.
Yep. I have a whole playlist on YouTube called Hall of Shame. Whenever I find like some evil, despicable act of, horrible and unethical behaviors I put into this cool playlist.
Yeah, it's so funny to us that we use it as a compliment. Like, oh, isn't it? We should kill this animal. We should do it in a humane way. We should. Oh, the humanity. It's like, oh my God, we are not that great. I don't know. Look, I'd give us a break. 7 billion organisms trying to coexist. It's not an easy task. This is not something you can just phone in. I mean, this is a massive challenge that has never succeeded. So I think all things considered, we're doing pretty good. Um,
Um, so I want to know right now, atheists
mhm.
are having to deal with death just like religious people. How do you think the atheists, the majority of atheists, are actually handling death? Because I see like there's a split. Like there's some atheists that they actually flock to transhumanism. And it's a
Mhm.
small group, but they're like, I need some hope to live forever. Let's go with technology. But then there's
Mhm.
another group, and I would say like Sam Harris, he promotes this attitude where it's just kind of like, let's just like accept it and like accept death as inevitable. It's not that bad. And then there's, I think, a big coping mechanism of a lot of atheists
Mhm.
is the idea of leaving a legacy through your children, through what do you think about this idea of leaving a legacy? And do you think that's the primary way that most atheists are coping with their own mortality?
Yeah, I think you could divide the community into a couple groups. I think there are people that have, on a surface level, dealt with the reality of death. But it's my opinion that everybody in life needs to go through a massive depression and a massive existential crisis in which you personally, have to face the facts about the universe you're living in. Not in a social context, not in a little conversation. I'm talking about you staring at the void of space, and it's personal and it's real, and you have to come to terms with it on a core level. And I think there are a lot of people that use distraction. I think distraction is how we cope. Somebody said once that like we get through our life basically de facto we think we're immortal. I mean that's the only real sane way to go through life. If you wake up every morning and go, holy shit, there's one more day that I'm closer to the grave, this is morbid. I mean, it makes sense to sort of not think about death, to not be obsessed about mortality. And there's many distractions that you can engage yourself in. There's the present moment. There's your work, your friends, there's love, there's sex, there's children. These things occupy your life, literally will occupy every moment of your life. And that's a good thing. That is life. That's what you should be doing. But I think there are people that can sort of coast through life, and there are people that their mother didn't die when they were 5. Their sister didn't die when they were 8. They haven't dealt with these things. They had a grandmother die when they were 20, and they barely knew her. That's not facing trauma and death and staring it directly in the eye. Um, and good for them. I mean, nobody's to say you should be doing that at a young age. Have fun. Be a child. Go to college. Go party. Enjoy yourself. That's a beautiful thing. I'm not telling people to be like, hey, by the way, there's no Santa Claus, and let's face death today, 5-year-old. No, it's just a matter of on your own time, you need to at some point address this in a real way. And there are people that don't. I mean, do you think Kirk Cameron has accepted death? No, not in any shred of a way has that guy accepted it. And if he did, he would be in a cold sweat and in a massive depression for months on end.
Okay, how do you think someone like Woody Allen?
Mm-hmm.
You made a whole video on Woody Allen, which I loved,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a very unique perspective on death. So, how would you say is he managing death? Does he have the right perspective? I mean, he kind
Well,
of has a similar one to me, which he basically says, life is meaningless if you die and there's nothing. Like he has this
well,
very hopeful attitude that maybe there could be some hypothetical God that might save him. Like he in that video you made, like he's like wanting to become a Catholic. He's like wanting some kind of religion just to cope with his death, right? To
right.
think that there's give him some hope.
Well, I wouldn't say that he thinks life is meaningless. I think he finds it rewarding and he's making the most of it. He finds value in what he does, and I'm sure he takes joy in the lives he's touched. But he is clearly a guy who's been on this path for a long time and has thought about everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's faced this fear, and his way of coping with it has been creating art about it. It's been expressing himself, which is a very healthy thing to do. And one of the things he's used, which is a powerful tool, which is a tool I like to use, is humor. There's two ways. There's two things you could do about this: cry or laugh. Hitchens said what he likes to do is stare death back in the face and give a little laugh, and be like, give a wink and a laugh, because that's all you can do. And that is a nice way to approach it. Go ahead.
You could fight it. You could say, no, I'm not going to accept this. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to do everything I can to survive.
And that seems to be your plan, and that's great. And fight it with a wink and a smile. Fight it because death is smiling at you. Make no mistake. Death is looking at you and just saying tick-tock, and he's looking at his watch. And he doesn't care what you say or do. He's waiting, and he's coming. And, I mean, I think that this is very therapeutic to talk about it, to express yourself. So when Woody Allen makes a movie about the topic of death, this is him processing his own terror and coming to a place of acceptance.
Well, I've thought about death a lot, and how can you say that life has any meaning if, in the end, you die and you cease to exist forever? Yeah, where is the meaning in that? If you're ending,
There's tons of meaning in that. I mean, you are assuming, in your premise, is the assertion that the only way to have meaning is to have eternity, which is just a ridiculous, narcissistic, egomaniacal statement. I mean, meaning could be temporary. If I said to you, okay, I'm going to give you 5 hours to just have sex with Scarlett Johansson, are you going to come back and be like, well, that was meaningless, it only lasted 5 hours? No, you would say, I'm going to fucking write a sonnet about this. I'm going to write a feature-length film about that experience.
Yeah, I know. Actually, Sam Harris, I watched one video where he is like making the same point you're saying right now. Okay, but here's where it's wrong. Here's where the point, the metaphor doesn't actually line up, because if you've done something like have sex with Scarlett Johansson, you're still alive afterwards to reflect on it and therefore create the meaning because you're alive. But if you die and you cease to exist, you cannot reflect on anything. You've lost everything you ever had. At that point, how can you have meaning if you're a non-existent entity?
No. Okay, so the meaning comes in the moment. The present moment, each moment we have as conscious beings is sacred and worth its weight in gold. It is the meaning. The moment is all we have. Everything else is just sand going through your fingers. You can't play the game of nothing means anything unless I can reflect on it for an eternity. I mean, put it this way. Joe DiMaggio nailing Marilyn Monroe is valuable. That was a valuable experience in time, in all the universe. Every conscious being will recognize that what he did with Marilyn Monroe meant something, even though Joe DiMaggio is dead. It still meant something in the moment and at the time. Now, any wish and desire to continue to reflect on your sexual experience with Scarlett is just greed. But guess what? The rules are, maybe somebody should explain to us the rules at the start. Here's what life is. You have X amount of time. You can fill it with whatever rewarding, meaningful experiences you want. You could have a stupid-ass life like the kid from Santa Barbara, that is a pointless and meaningless life. Or you could have an amazing, rewarding life like a Woody Allen, like a Christopher Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens died young. Would anybody say his life was meaningless? And that's an absurdity.
No, it's not meaningless to the people who are still alive.
Okay.
But to him now, yes, he cannot have meaning, because meaning requires a brain.
But he can't have anything. He can't have suffering. He can't have regret. He can't have. But that's just the nature of death. Yeah. It's funny. It's not just meaning. He cannot have remorse after death. But it doesn't mean he wasn't remorseful during his life. He doesn't mean he shouldn't have been remorseful during his life. So I understand where you're coming from, but it's like, do you hear those chickens in the background, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, my sister has a couple chickens, and these chickens will die. And this will be a lesson for her kids, actually. There'll have to be a talk that goes on. But, like, how can I phrase this? I think you need to burrow into what you mean by meaning, because meaning is, if you just equate it to having value to you, this is a subjective term. There's no objective meaning. It's all subjective. And what religious people tend to want is some sort of, my God, it's like this noble, just cosmic significance of where it's like, I want there to be a permanence to everything I do. I want there, I want after, I never want to die. I just want to go on, and it's just going to be about me. And I want a mansion, and I want to talk to the creator of the universe. I mean, this is the absurd, like, I don't know, wet dream of a primate.
Yeah.
This is
the desire for those things
yeah.
is rational.
Look,
who wouldn't desire those things? But it's yeah, I mean, I have a problem understanding how, I feel like I'm a nihilist if I can't live forever. Like, I don't see how to make sense of life if I have to die.
Yeah, but why? But see, you just have to recalibrate what you think making sense means. I mean, if you're a guy if I say to you tomorrow you get to have sex with Scarlett Johansson, if you cannot derive meaning from that, and that is not objective meaning, that is subjective meaning. And if I then tell you, look, you can have sex with Scarlett, but you're still going to die at a normal age, and if you then say, well, then fuck it, what's the point? Then I don't want to know you. Like, who are you? Who is that guy? That is ridiculous. That is just shameful. Like, at some point, everybody needs to man up and just be like, you die. Everybody died. Your parents died. Your grandparents, your great-grandparents. Look, this is why we are here as a species, is because we wanted to live. That's the survival instinct is the reason. Our ancestors fought and clawed and ran away from lions and the whole fucking thing. And they did it over millions of years, and that's why we're even having this conversation. That doesn't mean that their lives were worthless and ours is worthless. I mean, to me, it's much more interesting that you desire, and many people desire, some sort of interstellar meaning, like some sort of like divine, objective foreverness. And without that,
you desire foreverness too.
Yeah, I desire it, but I still don't then discredit everything I have. It's not like either or. It's not like if I don't get that, then fuck it. And it is for a lot of people. A lot of people would say, fuck it, there's no point to this.
Well, you'd never say fuck it, because as long as you're alive, and I've always said this, as long as you're alive, then you do have hope to live forever. Even if it's just a small hope, you have some hope to live forever, and that makes your life meaningful.
I would modify that. I mean, I would say, if you are alive, you do have hope that you will continue to be alive. Not even forever. Just if there is a tomorrow, the sun will come out tomorrow. If I get to have a moment of laughter tomorrow, if I get to help somebody or enjoy some nice cat meat tomorrow, then life is worth living. That's good. And that's all we have. Look, we don't even have the option here. We're acting like, here are our options: live or kill yourself. So that's all the power we have. We are ineffective. We don't control this. It's out of our hands, and that's the realization. Once you realize, worry about the things you can't control, don't worry about the things you can't control.
But this might be more in our control.
Yeah.
And, we think, because if we could just cure aging in time...
Yeah, but you know the problem? Here's the problem. Imagine you have this conversation with President Obama, and you go, Obama, here's what I want you to allocate funds to the prospect of eternal life, and I want you to get a huge team of scientists, and I want you to put a huge amount of money, cut the military budget in half, and put all that money into this. You know what he's going to say? You need to read the Bible. He's going to say, dude, you are already going to live forever. It's called God. It's called Jesus. You need to get back to your Bible. That's the world we live in. Obama could do that tomorrow. He could do an executive order and say, get all of our top scientists on this project immediately. That guy is a Christian nut job who believes in things that are not true. And he believes he is going to live forever. And if you are somebody that believes that, why on earth would you dedicate scientists to extending life? Makes no sense.
Yeah, and therefore is the problem with these religious people getting into power. unless he's just faking it. But here's the thing. Here's why I think we do have a lot of power, more than you might be thinking. Like, you have a big audience. Like, what would happen if you, like, really inspired your whole audience to, like, go out there and, like, hey, we do have some chance that we can cure aging, and go out there and let's raise the awareness in the atheist culture. What if all the atheists turn into, like, more transhumanists, and we're like, hey, we can cure aging. We can donate to Sense Foundation. We could donate to all these, like, even Google now came out with a Time magazine article. This stuff might inspire you. Google said, can we cure death? Oh, can Google cure death? Like, oh, and the other day, dude, here's the other thing. Mark Zuckerberg, the other day, he posted, he was asking, like, he was saying, the most important question to me is questions that involve humans, like, how can we live forever? How can we cure all diseases? That's coming from Mark Zuckerberg. Like, there's a lot of really rich, powerful people now. If we can get these people into life extension, dude.
Well, here's the only problem with that. If we do figure out a way to live forever, that would mean C.J. Werleman and Reza Aslan get to live forever. So that might be grounds to scrap the whole program right there. But okay,
it's the lesser of two evils. If we have to have some evil people getting to live forever, I mean, I don't know, they're evil, but who are those people again? They're not evil, are they?
They're evil.
But they're not serial killers. But you know, okay. If we, yeah.
Then here's what I think about this issue. Well, the idea of wanting to live forever is an unbelievably greedy thing. But ironically, you know what might make it work? Is our greed. Is human greed. Because when you add a capitalistic incentive to any industry, that industry will advance. So there are people working around the clock to solve baldness. Now, do you know why they're doing it? They're not doing it to aid their fellow man. They're doing it because they want money, because they're greedy. They want the riches and the spoils and to improve the quality of their life. So the same thing with aging. Oh, if they could figure this out, some company would make a fortune. It would just be mind-blowing. And so human greed, ironically, might save humans and give them the most greediest wish in the world, which is to live forever. It might be a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's crazy to think, but you know, when you dangle that carrot out, that's how things advance.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Let's dangle the carrot. Let's say, hey, atheists, we don't have to accept death. Yeah. What if there's an out? What if there's a way to live and not die?
Look at the space program. You see a lot more private space companies. I mean, we've privatized space travel and said, okay, well, this company is going to go up there, but they want the mining rights on Uranus. You know, it's like, what do we see happen? We see a lot more activity. We see plans to actually go up and build space stations, and it's funded by private entities that have capitalistic, incentives. This is back to the porn thing. The reason our streaming video was so good on the internet was because porn, producers wanted to make money, and so it gets done. So that is the carrot that might actually end up benefiting us, in a weird sort of loophole sort of way.
Absolutely. And then there's also the possibility that we could, besides capitalism funding, the cure for aging and life extension, we could potentially in the future, probably not this next election, but eventually we could get more of a scientific, atheistic, transhumanist guy in president to be president, like Zoltan Istvan, and then we're really making headway. Because if he could put $1 trillion into life extension research.
Yeah. Okay. Well, put it this way: if you elect a guy to be president whose name is Zoltan, I guarantee you the Christians are going to name that guy the Antichrist. They're like, Zoltan, it was written, it has been prophesized. His name is Zoltan. This guy is, from hell. But yeah, that's not likely to happen. But look, don't forget the president. What about the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court, filled with religious fundamentalists, they barely passed gay marriage, 5-4. Imagine coming to the Supreme Court and saying, how about allocating huge amounts of our wealth and treasure to the prospect of life extension? They're going to be like, no, you're going to live forever, first of all. What are you talking about? Get back. The Pope was not in favor of this. Imagine if the Pope came out and said that. The Pope is like, you guys, the Vatican City is gonna donate $1 billion to the science of life extension. The day that happens, you might see some progress. But we are dealing with ancient, sexually repressed men who wear dresses. So we gotta bite our tongue and hold our breath a little bit.
And here's another interesting perspective. You really want to destroy religion. If you want atheism to really take off, here's how you do it. We get life extension. We get indefinite life extension. So literally aging is a non-issue. You can live as long as you want, as long as you don't die from an accident, because we're not immortals. It's not the idea. It's not that you can't die. It's just you won't die from aging. Once that happens, dude, atheism will take off. People will think religion is absurd at that point.
Yeah. Oh, you kill their selling point. That would just be like, why? Why should I do this? It's like, yeah. I completely agree. I think you would neuter religion. I mean, science has neutered religion already, but it hasn't dealt with the emotional reason for religion.
Yes.
Science doesn't deal with emotional reasons. It deals with just stark facts. And so once you can eradicate the John 3:16 angle, they're not going to be... What is the second most favorite thing in the Bible? There is no. It's a distant second.
Yeah.
It's not like I love John 3:16, but I also really love Turn the Other Cheek. It's like, that's fucking retarded too. I really love the begat stuff. I really love the let the mob rape your daughters portion. That's my second favorite line. No, it's not. It's I get to live forever, and everything else is just white noise.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that we cannot win against religion as long as, I mean, people, if we just tell people, if we just tell atheists, hey, you guys, accept death, it's inevitable, people are going to still, that's not going to work on religion, right?
No.
That's not going to work on religious people. So we need to give an alternative salvation, like a salvation for atheists.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, you could mention that during this process. You could be like, look, I know it's a sharp 180 that you're thinking about making here. Just to let you know, we have scientists who are working on trying to extend life, and that might be a possibility in the future, but we have to enjoy what we have now, and I don't know. It could be helpful. It could be at least approaching to be addressing that fear and panic and concern on their part. Because here's the thing about religious people. They are very flexible. They can give up portions of their beliefs so long as the death thing maintains. So long as there's the sky daddy who will make me live forever, I will give up, Jonah and the whale. I will give up Noah's Ark. I will give up the Old Testament. I'll give up the Old Testament for you. So long as I get to live forever, I'll give up the virgin birth. I mean, it's amazing how many people... You can punch so many holes in this thing. But the one hole you cannot punch, you will never find a Christian who's like, I don't believe I get to live forever, but I believe everything else. That you'll never find. And there's a reason for that. And I think we've exposed it here.
And then, we need to give atheists, the hope that we could have the things that religion talks about, the virgins in heaven and all that stuff. We could have a real version of that, like sex bots in the future and life extension, create a paradise on earth and heaven and
right, but
on earth, right?
Bring it back to Islam. This is why it gets so perverted and extreme in that case, because they really have a problem with death. Like the Christians are pathetic and lame because they're just waiting around hoping that the rapture is going to happen, and they operate in their lives thinking they're going to live forever, which is embarrassing to witness. The Muslims take it a step further, and they're like, we love death. Yeah. We invite death. We will kill you, in fact. We're pro-death. We're happy to, we are this certain about our beliefs. So they basically have made life on earth a living hell, and they have made life a horrific place filled with suffering because of their skewed, fucked up thoughts about death. Yeah. Whereas the Christians, it's more just comical and awkward to witness, but they're not making our lives miserable in the process. I mean, they make it annoying and frustrating. The Supreme Court justices are, wrestling with the issue of gay marriage, which is pointless. That's more of an irritant than Allahu Akbar, kaboom, you're dead now because of some bullshit.
Yeah, it's an absolute death cult. It's a
total
death cult.
Bingo. Now, I might have to request that we call a halt to this because I have to pee very badly. Because I'm a biological organism that has no control over the coffee I just drank. And maybe scientists will one day find a day to increase my bladder, but that day is not today.
Okay. I'd love to have you back on, do more conversations later. This
Yeah, sure.
was very awesome.
Thank you. I enjoyed it
Really.
quite a bit. And if I'm sure we didn't hit all your questions, but I'm happy to come back. So
Yeah, we'll do it again.
okay.
And thank you so much, everyone. The link to Atheism-is-Unstoppable is in the description of this video, so go over there, check it out. Genius work.
Thank you, my man. I really loved it, and it's nice to meet you and have this chat. I look forward to our next one.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye-bye.